Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to CinemaTalk, the official podcast of RuleThirds.com, your one-stop place for film stuff that's very entertaining to watch. So, today we're going to talk about this not very new, but very relevant topic of young adult novel adaptations. A lot of movies based off young adult novels have been coming out recently, and it's kind of getting a resurgence. So we're going to give our thoughts on some previous series and where we think it's going and the whole movement as a whole. So let's not waste any more time. My name is Sean.
I'm Max.
And I'm Larry.
And this is Cinema Talk. Please go to the lobby, metaphorically, I suppose.
Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
So welcome again, everyone, to Cinema Talk, Rural Thirds podcast. Today we have a very interesting topic, but first, we keep forgetting to do it at the beginning, but we should be. So let's say what went up on the site since the last Cinema Talk. Now, it has been a little barren. I think that's pretty obvious. The core stuff has been going up on time and as scheduled, and that's all great. But we've been really busy with school and all that, so we haven't been able to do the extra stuff like newsreels, grades, and previews. But, all we have since the last Cinema Talk is a recommendation domination from Larry, which isn't like a full one. It's text-based. Larry, do you want to explain that really quick?
Yeah, if you haven't already read it, I got into some majorëditing issues while I was working on RD. I'm working on a solution currently. Mm-hmm. My friend is going to teach me the ropes on Premiere Pro, and I'm going to kind of mooch off of him for a little bit. But in the meantime, essentially, I was forced to do a written version. In fact, that version isn't actually the original version. I decided to do I cannot speak. I decided to rewrite RD because I felt that the video that I made wasn't really, filled to the brim of what I really wanted to say. Okay. Considering we want to keep them short. But I'm actually pretty proud of that written one. I actually really like how it turned out.
Story short, it's written because you're having editing problems. Excellent. Indeed. And I don't think it was mentioned on the last podcast, even though it went up right after. We have a written review from Max of the Grand Budapest Hotel. So that's also something you should check out. Only on the site. Again, it's not on our YouTube channel. It's on our site, ruralthirds.com. As for
it is on Screw Attack, though.
That is true. It's also over at screwattack.com /ruralthirds. Do we have a link?
Rule-thirds.
Rule-thirds.
You can find a link below. It's always there. As for upcoming, do we want to talk about anything? Larry, do you have a greats in mind? You want to hint at?
Yes. Due to life, the original episode I was planning is going to be pushed a little bit, but I can guarantee you that by the end of this month, you will have another episode.
Cool. And
that dang life.
Yeah, it's
life.
The worst. So, Max, do you have anything with Newsreel? Or have you been working on a story? I thought you were, but nothing.
Well, I was, and then I was too late, and it didn't become relevant anymore. I'm still on the prowl. If you have an idea for a newsreel, topic, please leave it in the comments section.
Or
I'd love to do
Twitter,
something.
At Mr. Max Mariner. That could be a good place to reach Max specifically.
Mm-hmm.
And as for me, I have a lovely little video planned. New Days of Future Past trailer, X-Men Days of Future Past. I'm going to be reviewing that new trailer, but I'll also be covering the first trailer they released. And I'm going to have a fun way of implementing that. It's going to be a fun video, so keep your eye out for that in the near future. But life again, we're going to get this ball rolling. Sometimes, you guys, I feel a little angsty. As a teenager, I sometimes got some angst.
Yeah.
Do you guys know what
no, I don't, because I'm a man.
Some teenage angst.
Oh, my dear Sean, I very much so feel that teenage angst you're speaking of.
I know. If only there was some outlet where we can maybe work through these angsty feelings.
Grr.
Maybe through escapism, maybe through actual discussion. And if only there were people exploiting that angst to get our money and to possibly have negative effects on our psyche.
If only.
And if only there were movies that we could go see right now.
Yeah, wouldn't that be cool?
Let's have an in-depth discussion about these hypothetical series of films. Okay,
So where do we begin?
I believe. I mean, obviously there have been young adult novel adaptations for a while. I mean,
Yeah.
but the modern trend, I think, started with Harry Potter. I mean, everyone kind of agrees with that.
Began with Harry Potter, one of the most revolutionary film series of the past 50 years.
Mm-hmm. We're just saying a lot, given
to be fair, that one kind of became a young adult more so into the series.
Right.
Yeah, it didn't start off as such. It was more whimsical children's
it's
chapter
kids
book. But then,
and so they were kids movies pretty much. But
yeah, like what would you say, like
the
fourth? The fourth
is where things changed.
Yes,
yeah,
and that's good. And if you ask me, and I think like all of us, the movies are overall good.
Yes,
and they made a ton of bank, which means there's going to be some imitators.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we can spend more time on Harry Potter here. We don't have to transition right away.
Well,
that sounded like a transition.
Well, it does bring to light the issue of how this whole thing started. Now, it was really the commercial success of Harry Potter, and not specifically maybe the critical success that led to all these imitators. Harry Potter, to me, is one of the best film series out there because it was consistently it had consistent, to me, in my opinion, consistent quality. And so the one thing that I think a lot of young adult novels adaptations lack is that same attention to detail, that same attention and care to the source material and whatnot.
I think to be fair, I don't know. I don't think we can only. I mean, there are a ton of different young adult series that have done many inspirations throughout the genre, to sound fancy or whatever. But I think we can. I can probably think that Harry Potter probably is the most influential in the sense that.
Yeah, I think it definitely is.
Yeah, it's the most influential. I don't know if as a whole it's arguable as far as you take other ones, but essentially in the sense that there's a huge fan base and there's multiple books in the series, and thus we can make a ton of cash off of that. That's for sure. Harry Potter, especially with Deathly Hallows and splitting it in two parts, that was definitely the biggest way that Harry Potter influenced the movie industry period as a whole.
And it's weird. By the end of the series, it kind of became a nostalgia property. In that it was really pulling in the people who had watched the series from the beginning to end. It was still a young adult novel adaptation, but it also just kind of felt like at the very end of the eighth movie, and spoilers, I guess, cover your ears or take your headphones off or whatever. Well, it shows all the people. It shows. Harry, Ron, and Hermione all grown up, and then also they have the music from the very first movie, which brought a tear to my eye personally. And I think it just kind of it just kind of transitioned from children's fantasy to young adult fantasy to sort of young adult fantasy / nostalgia property.
Yeah,
so that is a bit of a
it's
stretch.
Definitely one of the longer lasting series.
Yeah,
I mean,
9.5 years.
Right.
9.5.
Now, I wanted to bring up really quickly before that Harry Potter started the young adult thing, but I think a huge part of its mainstream acceptance, and not just fans of the books, was Lord of the Rings. I think Lord of the Rings, the Fellowship came out the year before Sorcerer's Stone, and I think that popularity, they said, mainstream likes fantasy again, and so I think the fantasy foothold Lord of the Rings let the fantasy part work, and so then it created the young adult thing. So that's kind of like the grandfather of it.
That's an interesting way to look at it. That's a very interesting way to look at it.
That's how I always seen it. As Lord of the Rings is like the.
I'd say you're right. I mean, sure, Lord of the Rings are a little bit above young adult,
yes,
but
they're
still,
definitely not young adult. Definitely.
Yeah, but
I mean, The Hobbit is a children's book. Lord of the Rings is just is a fantasy novel. It's not young adult.
I still think you have a good point, though.
Yeah.
I mean, Lord of the Rings definitely set in stone that fantasy is big.
Now, when speaking about young adult novels, I think we're all talking about this, the ones with science fiction or supernatural elements. There are young adult novels that are stuff like Perks of Being a Wallflower or the upcoming The Fault in Our Stars. But those are more like coming of age stories that are based on young adult novels. It's a lot like how John Hughes ruled the teen film scene back in the 80s.
Right. I think people will understand what we mean when we say young adult. Everyone gets it. So we established Harry Potter. We all like it.
The first imitator out of the gate, and I guess we got to talk about this.
Yep.
Hey, I'm not. Who wants to say it? Are we gonna?
I'm gonna say it. Twilight.
Yep. Twilight was huge.
Funny story. I actually saw the first Twilight.
I've never seen it.
It was really mediocre, which kind of surprised me. I saw it, and I'm like, well, that was just kind of bland and boring and not interesting and not good. And then the hate, I started reading about the hate for the entire series. I didn't understand it, but I understand it later. The next movies and stuff, I understand it better.
Did you watch the other ones?
Most of it.
Okay.
Yeah, like enough to know. I'm not speaking from the internet hates it. I therefore shall speak ill of it. I have enough experience with the other films to say they're not very good. And I don't think I'm breaking any hearts. Our audience isn't going to be the
it's
Twilight.
Funny.
Yeah.
It's funny. For me, it only took one. I saw I didn't even watch the whole first one. It's one of the only movies I can say without a heavy heart that I walked out of.
Wow, I've never walked out of a movie.
Me neither.
That's not true.
I did once. I did once.
It takes quite a bit.
Yeah.
But I was just, and I didn't know what to do. I was like, am I supposed to be invested with these characters? Was that the goal? I'm not feeling it. I'm really not.
Do you guys remember Dougal? Even at like 12 years old, I was like, no. I'm gonna go watch the Shaggy Dog.
Oh, Dougal, you stupid Garfield-esque clone.
Yeah,
that was. God.
But anyway, Twilight was huge. Twilight was big.
So,
even though they were critically panned, that critical success that Harry Potter had did not translate into Twilight. But the commercial success was out of this world.
Out of the world.
Yeah,
out of the world.
Which I find pretty disturbing.
Yeah,
well, I mean,
same.
I get that it's not like critics are objective quality. There is no objective quality. But, man, it's just this unanimous thing. The thing about Harry Potter was, I mean, it had its audience, definitely. But it never felt made for them. Like, I watched the Harry Potter movies with my parents, and they enjoyed them just fine. And you can watch it with a much younger kid. You can watch them with adults. It doesn't matter. Even if it's for our age group. I mean, now it's for a little younger than us. But I think it's an all ages kind of deal. But when you get to Twilight, it starts the trend of exploiting certain groups.
Yes.
Okay, I don't think it is stereotyping to say that the Twilight fan base is very distinct. It's very clear who they're going after. It's very clear who bought it, who made it a success financially. So that's what's different about Twilight and Harry Potter. Taking out quality, because of course that's all subjective, I will definitely argue that the Twilight films are way more targeted than Harry Potter.
Yeah,
it's
you see,
way
by the
more
time Harry Potter
focused and financially motivated, I would say, than Harry Potter was.
If you ask me, by the time that Harry Potter became like the young adult novel adaptation, it had already gathered such a huge reputation around the world that it really didn't matter what it could be. People would still go see it. It was such a huge property that it really wouldn't matter whether or not you called it a young adult.
Well, I don't know. To be fair, I mean, when you look at like the audiences for Harry Potter and Twilight on a book level, on a novel level, they both kind of attracted a very well. Let's be honest.
Harry Potter books are so much like higher regarded.
Yeah, I mean that's true. As much as in the mainstream, although I'm sure any Twilight fan would be willing to argue that they are legitimately, well-written books. And I'm not saying they're not. I've never read a Twilight book.
Can I say I read the first book way back, like right before the movie came out. It was a good book. It's good. It's not bad.
Yeah, I'm sure that the author has talent. I mean, but the issue. Okay, well that's subjective. I don't like to immediately doubt that someone has talent right from the get-go, but the problem here though is that while Harry Potter kind of when Harry Potter movies came out, film was there was a generation before there was at least like a mindset beforehand where it's just like I don't need Harry Potter to make strangle a norm in this I don't know, influence society or anything. I just want to watch Harry Potter come to life on screen. Now with Twilight began this thing where it's just like, oh, we need to do this, and this, so that way our movie can be as successful as Twilight.
Yeah.
And that irks me.
And one of those includes making a two-parter finale, which is
to be fair, Harry Potter also solidified that trend.
I'm saying, that's what Harry Potter did. I think it was justified with Harry Potter, but I don't know about the other ones.
7.1 is my least favorite movie in the series, but I guess
it's not that great. It's only good.
But that being said, 7 Part 2 was my favorite, so I guess
7 Part 2 was awesome.
I know it was. Okay, so the thing about we're trying to stay away from quality with these, which is going to be really hard when we get to what the most recent.
God.
But
oh boy.
I think we I was just thinking about it it never really occurred to me, but Harry Potter's appeal was the fantasy had really strong storytelling, I think, and I'm not trying to bring it subjectively, but it was mostly agreed critically in audience that it's a really good series. I think Twilight saw the dark side of that. Twilight saw the part that was getting audiences as kind of the fantasy fulfillment. A lot of Harry Potter kind of had that. It's definitely not innocent in that regard. It's just much more subdued. And then you get something like Twilight, which is so aimed to to get to that audience and kind of prey upon what they want to see. So they want the average girl who's really shy and this hunky guy to notice her for, who she is, I guess. Whatever that is. I mean, the character's cardboard.
Yeah, true. But honestly, I hate giving Twilight credit for anything unless it's negative. But it's like, to be fair, Twilight kind of was playing off of romantic stereotypes that were already in place. It's just now we had a new audience to exploit.
It grabbed onto that dark side of it. Like Harry Potter was just, hey, here's a good story. And if you have the teen angst and you want to kind of work that out a bit in cinema, it's a great function of film. I've never been against working out personal issues by watching a movie. It's absolutely beautiful. If you want to work that out, great. Here's an awesome story and strong characters. Then Twilight said, hey, guys, just come into the therapy session. There's this hot guy. Like, that was it. Like, they offered such little else. And again, we're trying to stay away from subjectivity, but that is how I see it. It so... it was just there to grab the market that Harry Potter captured. Yeah, unintentionally, almost.
To me, this is not like exclusive to young adult adaptations. Sure. Yeah, I mean, right now, and I'm not, I don't want to like jump into a whole other thing, but the whole like exploiting a target audience based on like another franchise that's more popular and also like it's made more as a labor of love than actually just like getting people in the seats is The Amazing Spider-Man in comparison with the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Sure. That's happening right now. So this is not a new thing. This is not like a thing that Twilight does specifically. It's just business.
I would actually rather say the DC universe to the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yeah, all right. I'll get but that's a whole other thing. That's a whole other thing.
Yeah, no offense to Warner Brothers, but
let's do that. Let's write that down as a CinemaTalk. The Marvel Cinematic Universe has so much going on.
That would be like an extra 2 hour. Yeah. I have too much to say about that.
Well, let's think about that for like after Winter Soldier or something like that. We discuss it.
But anyway, what I'm trying to say is this is not exclusive to this one genre.
Yeah. But it does apply to this topic. So I think are we done with Twilight? It was a huge deal.
Can we stop talking about
let's
Twilight?
move on to like there were more imitators. Like what is it? There was it was Percy Jackson and the whatever thing.
Percy Jackson was interesting in how it was kind of basing on soul fantasy. It was going after more Harry Potter than Twilight.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It was
even a Camp Half-Blood. Seriously, Camp Half-Blood.
Yeah, it's too bad it wasn't good and it wasn't that commercially successful.
Sean Bean was Zeus and Uma Thurman was Medusa. At least they had good casting.
That's cool.
But
it was really
almost
cool.
It did well. At least the first one, I think, did all right commercially, terrible critically, and then the second one just failed on both levels. Yeah. So clearly that was a fluke.
I don't have much to say about that series. I don't know if we should linger on it.
I want to mainly move on to arguably the next biggest young adult novel.
I know exactly what you're supposed to say.
Definitely.
The Hunger Games.
I haven't read any of the books.
Me neither. I read part of the first and I dropped it.
And I think we should just state here, books don't matter. We're talking about the
books do not matter. I have argued this with friends. The books never matter.
That would be a great CinemaTalk. We just explain our reasons why the book
we are
doesn't
digging
matter.
in the gold mine of CinemaTalk ideas. But yeah, books. Yeah. My friend, it was so hilarious to me. I was once talking to my friends about actually Twilight. Funny enough, I never read the book, and I saw the film, and I'm like, this movie was crap. After like 30 minutes or maybe 40 minutes, I walked out, and they're like, no, but you probably didn't like it because you didn't read the book. And I'm like, that doesn't matter.
Why do I
have to have read the book? And they're like, no, but you have to read the book because you need something to base off of. It's like that. There's no point to that.
Yeah,
the book does not matter. A movie is a movie. If it's and I don't care if it's a sequel, a prequel, a trequel. I don't care. If
it can't stand on its own,
idea.
That's a fault of the film.
Exactly.
You shouldn't have. There should be no required reading. It's like you buy the ticket. I'd like to go see Twilight. Oh, have you read the book? No, I'm sorry, I can't let you in, sir.
No.
With that said, I will say that The Hunger Games is pretty much the like the poster child for the young adult adaptation flood that we've been getting in movies lately because of Harry Potter. It's like in the sea of imitators, The Hunger Games stands up as sort of its own thing, but also kind of designed for that audience.
Well,
and the first one's okay, and the second one's good. So I mean, we're on a good track.
I think that's interesting about there's two things that are interesting about the Hunger Games. One of which is that I personally feel, and I don't say this about many, but I think it's better to see the movie, the Hunger Games movie, without reading the book. That's the first thing.
But how can we tell if it's better or worse because we haven't read the book?
Because the intensity. Because Larry, you've mentioned this before. I think I know where you're going. Why I like Catching Fire. One of the reasons I like Catching Fire so much, I love that movie, is the main characters. Realistically, they're not going to be killed off. You can't get too nervous when they're in danger because they're the main characters. It's an inherent problem with all narrative. The person you're following is pretty much safe until the climax. Then maybe something goes wrong. But the fact that they had all those minor characters just sitting there waiting to be killed, like the plot could do it. It wouldn't break the plot to kill them. The movie totally could. You're at their mercy. And so I think if you read the book, you kind of know that. And the film is crafted to build suspense, and it's kind of pointless if you know what ends up happening.
I keep saying
it loses that intensity.
Yeah, it's not about the destination. It's about the journey. And I feel like, we all know Katniss is going to live, there's 3 other books. But I mean, if you just, you can get involved in this story and things can happen. I don't care about how the movie's ending is important in other ways, but I don't care about how it ends. I care about where it goes to get to that ending.
Mm-hmm. Now,
that's really the Hunger
Can I
Games in a
really
nutshell.
quickly? I think this whole minor character thing as a model people should really follow. Having a lot of minor characters around that are expendable, not minor. Having expendable characters is really good for drama and building. It
raises the stakes.
That's why I think Game of Thrones works so well, because 90% of the characters you could kill off. There's a few that are safe.
Yeah,
but then, and then of course, every once in a while they decide to kill them anyway. The people
they
who
do
thought
get
were
killed.
safe.
That's the beauty of Game of Thrones, and also like the novel. I don't know if any of you have read it. And then there were none. The novel. That's pretty much a story where you introduce 10 different characters, and they're in this one like island mansion, and there's this little myth about how one person will live and 9 others will die. It's great when you have this large group of people. You don't know. It might come off a little obvious in the beginning, sure, but you don't know.
Sorry to bring it off on a tangent there. My bad. But I had to bring in Game of Thrones somehow. It is in my contract.
The Hunger Games is certainly the thing right now. I mean, it's good for. And it's healthy. It's like Harry Potter is great, but I mean, it doesn't really have that much aside from you're the chosen one. You're the you're the super special kid. This is
we can talk about the whole chosen one thing. I kind of had a rant of tweets on that.
Yeah, the chosen one narrative is one of the most overused and completely useless things in when you're talking about relatable characters in cinema.
It's just terrible.
The Hunger Games, in my opinion, is like the poster child of good timing. Because there are multiple reasons why the Hunger Games worked commercially. Forget the movie itself. First of all, you have a book series that was rising in popularity already, and then you announce, we're making a movie, so everyone's going to read the book.
Yeah,
that's an obvious selling point.
Which is weird. Why wouldn't you just wait until the movie's out before reading the book so you don't get spoiled?
I don't understand that either.
I don't know why, but people just have this expectation that they have to read the book before.
What's funny is when the book deviates from the narrative, it was back about a year. It was back a year before Catching Fire came out, and a huge fan told me, she just kind of accidentally spoiled it, that Peeta was going to die at the end of Catching Fire, and I was like, and I remember that going into the movie, and it didn't happen.
Yeah.
So now I'm wondering, is this still going to happen? Is it supposed to be a thing? It would be nice to kill Peeta Mellark off, to be honest. But
come on.
Other than that,
be nice to Peeta.
How much from the source material are they deviating it away from? Which again, the books don't matter, but it would still make it would still make no sense if they took the book and then made a completely different story out of it while still calling it the book. Like World War Z.
Yeah, okay, apparently that doesn't follow it well.
And
so one thing about Hunger Games that I think we should bring up is how it is different from Harry Potter and how it is similar to Twilight, although infinitely better for the film landscape, is it does have a female protagonist, and
that's what I was going to get to next.
And it is one of the highest grossing films of last year.
Yeah.
And that is such a good sign.
Exactly.
So, Harry Potter, again, if we take this subjectively, quality doesn't matter. You look at the character of Bella, and it's just not a strong character. This is not a good role model.
He just kind of stumbles around the narrative.
Right.
Yeah, not a good role model.
And
at all,
I
especially
liked the first Twilight book, but that was because it was from her perspective and her thoughts all the time. When you take that away in the movie, it's probably going to look really distant and just not very enjoyable to watch.
The biggest example of this that everyone brings up, but I'm going to bring up again, in New Moon, the second film, her vampire boyfriend leaves, right, and to get she starts seeing him whenever she's in danger, so she starts doing stupid crap to get in danger, so he appears to her.
That's really bad for girls. That's really
that's
bad.
Messed up. Even if you take away, even if you detach it from the female protagonist, weak or strong, that's still an incredibly unhealthy mindset. It's not a strong character. Katniss is, and what's better is that Katniss is a very normal person. I read a lot of critiques about Catching Fire, and they said Katniss isn't that interesting. And my comeback to that is, I don't think she's supposed to be anything special. That's kind of her thing. She is normal. She's not ready for this role that people are trying to force on her. That's what makes her more interesting. She is the average Joe, I guess, average Jane in this scenario.
Good one.
Yeah. So I think it's really good that we have a really successful movie with a female protagonist. We need more of those. Gravity was good for that.
Yeah.
A ton of movies last year especially really grossed a lot of money. And maybe Hollywood will wake up.
And it's funny because I was going to say, it's good commercially because of that, and also because you have Jennifer Lawrence, who's on top of the world right now.
Yeah, she is huge.
Who knows how many actors, actresses in this case, are looking at that and go, I want that, please. Hello, I will pay for that. Please.
Right.
Yeah, let's be honest for a second. Did you, if you saw the new poster for the X-Men Days of Future Past trailer, you'll notice that Mystique has a huge presence, and I don't think she's really that big.
I don't think so either. Now we haven't seen the film, so she might.
Yeah. I mean, but from where I stand, from where she's been in the X-Men franchise, I think she's advertised because it's Jennifer freaking Lawrence.
Everyone knows that it's Jennifer Lawrence, and they should. I just found it weird that she was blue. If you really wanted to capitalize on Jennifer Lawrence, just make it her.
There are some shots in the new trailer that do have her as her
she can transform into her normal form, and she looks, like Jennifer Lawrence. But on the
point
poster,
is,
she's blue, and the Mystique.
Dang it, I keep sidetracking on the superhero movies, guys. I'm sorry. Point is, she's on top of the world, so this makes a lot of sense, and she's been getting some great roles out of her popularity and whatnot.
Yeah, definitely. So I think Hunger Games, I really like. The first one I liked. I wasn't crazy about it, but I liked it okay. And then the second I loved. Second favorite movie of last year. So I'm definitely in support of the series. And as we're moving forward with the two-parter, final parter, which again, set by Harry Potter, which was justified, but then Twilight did not justify it. But anyway.
Okay, yeah. We had the mystic, we had the fantasy, and we had the... okay, this is interesting. Hold on. So we have Harry Potter, the fantasy stuff... We have them, which is imitated by Twilight, which is like the fantasy, supernatural kind of stuff. We have the Hunger Games, which, yes, is an imitation, but it's also its own thing about this weird society where everybody's conformed to do something, and it's all this really savage society. And we move on to our final topic, subject.
Actually,
what?
Let's not go too far.
There are two minor steps first. The first being the long... In the process, it was kind of stuck in development for a while, I believe, because I saw posters about this 2 years before it came out. The Mortal Instrument City of Bones.
Ah, yes, that was that was another kind of thing going at Harry Potter, right?
Yeah, kind of. Well, it's also kind of a Twilight thing because it was vampires, if I'm not mistaken. It had
but was there a school or there was a big old castle in the poster? I was like,
so that bombed really bad.
Yeah, it was.
Bad.
Yeah,
so a lot of people were saying, "Well, we're done." Hunger Games keep going because it's successful, but young adult can't really do it. But then I think about the same time, The Host came out by the author of Twilight,
and that
had the exact same love triangle thing going, and it failed. So people are saying,
completely bombed.
Oh, well, now definitely we're done. Then Vampire Academy, where it's it's not quite
which was
adult. It's slightly different. It isn't quite following.
It was literally Mean Girls with the young adult novel stuff.
Right.
It was literally one of the most important films of, I guess, our generation for women at least. And from the director of that, trying to retain that, and then it bombed.
It bombed. Vampire Academy bombed.
Though I guess you could kind of. That came out the week before the Lego Movie, though, right? And that was kind of
affected the audience of Vampire Academy and Lego Movie.
No, wait, it came out alongside a different movie, though. I remember that, and it got absolutely crushed, which is a shame. I mean, I don't know if it was good or not, but it's a shame anyway because movies bombing is bad.
Yeah,
anyway,
so then So, okay, these 3 bombs happen, and a lot of industry analysts, and then I agreed with them, said, it's probably over. Like, you're going to have your popular series, but it's no longer a given. And I think we can all agree on that. It seemed like it wasn't a given anymore. Just because it's young adult doesn't mean it's going to go well.
Yep. And yet, here we are.
Okay, let's have a lovely little mental breakdown from me.
Oh,
Okay.
God. Wait, can me and Max
Commence
just get... Hold on,
rant.
wait. I need to get something to protect my face. Hold on one second.
I'm gonna get some popcorn.
All
I
right,
don't know about you guys.
I got a shield right over here. Go ahead, Sean. Do your worst.
$58 million.
That's a good chunk of money, especially for a
58
first weekend.
million.
Mm-hmm.
You people.
Oh boy.
You people gave
You
them $58 million
You
for the
fucking
most
people.
condescending, textbook, cutout, just the worst young adult adaptation I have ever seen.
You watched? You saw it?
No, like I've ever like seen as in heard of. That's a better way. Heard
Now,
of.
Sean, I'm gonna be honest. I've heard a lot of good things about it.
I refuse to believe that people. Okay, fine. I don't care if the movie turned out okay, or even half decent, or even great. The fact remains that people saw those trailers, the most abysmal excuses for media I've seen in the past ever. They are my least favorite trailers. They saw
Past
that.
ever.
And I think that the clips, and it's not even me critiquing trailers. Make no mistake, they are horrendous trailers. I will argue to you that
they're pretty fucking awful.
they're awful. It's not even that. Every clip they showed was terrible. Everything I saw in those trailers, taking away trailer form and all that, to me, it doesn't matter. Everything I saw, every piece I saw in the trailer was awful.
You even
Now-
wasted Kate Winslet.
Right.
Like, seriously. You don't do that with Kate Winslet.
You don't
It was
do that.
awesome.
That's not nice. She deserves better than Divergent.
Yeah.
Okay, so I see this trailer. Like, this is awful. This looks like it's the worst. And it took me a while to figure out why I was legitimately, I wouldn't say stressed, but I was very nervous about Divergent. I was emotionally connected to its financial success. That sounds really petty and weird, but I figured out why I was so worried that it had to bomb critically and commercially. Why that had to happen for me to not freak out. And I realized it's because it looks so bad. And if it turns out to be okay, I don't know if I can trust my judgment anymore. That's the problem I ran into. I look at this and say, this is awful. Okay, I've seen bad movies. Okay, and this just takes the cake. This looks like one of the worst movies I've ever come across. And then when I start seeing the mediocre reviews, it starts to make me feel insecure. It sounds stupid, but I'm going to admit it. It made me feel insecure about my ability to judge film.
Yeah, Sean, you don't, let's be real here, Sean. If your perception of a movie's success is off, it does not mean you can't trust yourself anymore.
But
Trust me,
think
I had
about
that experience recently. It just meant that I'm still it just reminded me that I'm still I'm not crazy. I just have different viewpoints.
Anyway, okay, fine. But the biggest point here regarding my emotional issues, I no doubt need to work out on my own.
You need to work those out, buddy.
The important thing that really upset me about Divergent being a success is the fact that no one saw the movie when they decided to go see it, right? That's just kind of obvious. No one saw the movie. All they knew was the trailers, and it boggles my mind to think someone saw those trailers.
Are you talking
and
about
said,
no one read the book when they went to
Well, sure, but the book is apparently just as awful.
No, whoa. I've actually heard... I've actually seen the audience kind of split 50-50 on that one. I know a lot of people who love it and a lot of people who don't.
It seems awful from what I've read about the book, too. But anyway, people saw that trailer and said, yeah, no, that's good use of my time. I think I'll give them money for the product presented to me. How? It boggles my mind. I would like to sit down with anyone who saw that trailer and said, yeah, I'm interested. I want to sit down with them and say, and just I don't know, do a therapy session on why. Because I cannot comprehend it. I'm not trying to be condescending. I legitimately cannot comprehend the appeal of Divergent based on the trailers.
Plus, the
looks
idea.
Awful.
Plus, the idea behind it is actually kind of like it is sort of like it does sort of exploit female adolescence, and then it's like
no. We will get to how I've talked about it before, just how, in the first CinemaTalk, just how condescending it is. It's pretty much
hey,
just saying,
girls,
hey,
did you ever know that you ever felt that you didn't fit in with everybody else? Well, that's because you're special, and that's because you're not categorized, and that's because you need to go watch this movie and feel freaking good about yourself, even though you don't need it at all.
Guys,
I know. Hey, I'm not saying anything about the movie. I don't like what it's trying to say, though.
I don't. I think it's actually. I think it's actively harmful. Kind of like how Twilight is viewed. It's like people talk about how it's legitimately just a bad role model. That character. Now, I don't know about the character in Divergent. Again, trailer can't show me character. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't want to make any judgments about that. But the premise and the way it's presented is very condescending, and I think it's very harmful because it worked. That's what's kind of bugging me. It worked. So we're going to get this again. We're going to get the whole, hey, you're special because they just can't define you. You want to meet this hot guy? He's in this story. He's got a shirt.
He wants to
off
be everything you
know?
want him to be.
Right.
He must be smart, and strong, and
Now, to be fair, now I'd like to point out that this exists for men too. This totally exists. Michael Bay has made his living off the exact same thing for us. And it's equally condescending. Definitely. It's like, hey guys, you see this hot woman? She is in danger. Let us save her as the masculine gender. They're just as guilty of this condescending selling out to basic instinct. I get that. But it still upsets me to see it, especially when it's next to something like Hunger Games, which we discussed, to be much more healthy.
Yeah, but like House of Fire was one of the biggest movies of last year. I don't think Divergent's going to climb that high.
No, it's not. It's not going to break 200 mil.
Let me steer this conversation a little bit more back to what we were talking about before.
We're going to go to the future ones, the future releases.
No, hold on. I'm not just that.
Oh,
I'm talking. I want to talk about specifically the things that you talked about before Divergent. You talked about all three of those bombs, and I think the reasons that those bombed were because that their fan bases were not nearly as large. I think that when you look at I know many friends who are very into this whole young adult thing, all these young adult novels, and honestly, things like The City of Bones, even The Host, and especially Vampire Academy. Sorry, wow, that was pathetic.
Hey, greenlight that movie though. That sounds interesting. Vampire Weekend.
It's a band. Well, it's a band, so that's why I messed
it's copyrighted.
it up. Damn it! Now YouTube's gonna get on our asses. But to be fair, I barely had heard of those, and honestly, a lot of my friends who were pretty, caught up in all this mainstream hype of nearly everything, weren't very familiar with them either. But now Divergent, I think Divergent, honestly, its fan base has grown a lot more. I think there's a bigger audience for that. Just out of like, I look at, I know a superior amount of people who are reading Divergent over any of those other books combined. Not as big as the Hunger Games or Harry Potter or Twilight, mind you, but big enough, So
if
I just want to make that
point.
point.
I do like how Divergent's characters are not named like with really silly words like with the Hunger Games.
Well, that was a different society.
Yeah, I know.
I don't like the names either, but I'm just saying, at least there's some reason.
I want to read these out loud. Just sometimes, guys, it's good to have unique names, but sometimes you just got to remember if they sound good.
Finnick O'Dare. That's my favorite one.
Let's not get too
yeah. This is
specific
but
names.
Our point is, Divergent's success will have an impact. It will make some kind of.
I really don't think it's positive.
Me neither.
And also, it really upsets me that the entire trilogy, the entire Divergent trilogy, Insurgent and something else, was greenlit before it was released.
I believe the same went for Harry Potter, though. I believe the plan was to make movies as they went on, as the book series went on, and have the actors and actresses grow up along with it.
That arrogance, especially after those 3 bombs, they should not be so cocky. That arrogance did bug me. Also because the movie looked awful. So I wanted to bomb to laugh in their faces for giving us this terrible movie and thinking they can make a trilogy out of it. Now, if the movie turned out to not be terrible, whatever, but I still don't like the arrogance behind it.
The same thing happened with Green Lantern when that came out. Yeah. People were like, hey, it's going to be the start of the DC Cinematic Universe. And then it completely bombed and was critically panned.
Okay, to be fair, Green Lantern, yes, they did think Green Lantern would be the start of the DC Cinematic Universe. But to be fair, it's honestly not much of a worse start than Man of Steel was. Boom. Headshot. So let's move on
I
to...
wasn't really asking.
I know.
Yeah,
I couldn't
come
resist.
on.
I couldn't resist.
It's always easy to take shots at that movie now. But
I know.
what I'm saying is, when you it's very rare when you have a series that is so confident in its own source material and is good enough that it's going to spawn off a series. Like with Iron Man. I mean,
Yeah.
Iron Man had literally the craziest end credits, to be continued thing ever, and it actually took off.
Okay.
So
Okay.
really, it
Kind
does
of
kind of vary.
missed, though.
You can be arrogant about it, but the movie can still be good.
Okay.
It's,
You
it's
Realize,
not
though,
just
that the Iron
Guys,
Man thing
guys.
people missed, though, a little bit.
yeah. But okay, but what we're saying
we need
is
to do a podcast on the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It's come up a lot. So,
Yeah. Okay,
I
but
know.
the point is, I keep mentioning it, and it's my fault. I'm sorry. My point is that this kind of corporatized arrogance with greenlighting multiple sequels, it really can backfire. And I mean, I get that it's a business. We're talking about Hollywood. Hollywood is a business. The film industry has always been a hive of scum and villainy, and that's how it will continue to be.
Yeah. Of scum and villainy.
Because that's just how it is. That's just how artists work together sometimes, and that's how
And it's-
business
and you
and,
know what's
artists
even-
clash.
You know what's
So-
even worse, though? You know what's
Yeah.
even worse than actually doing that? What
yeah.
actually happens when it fails. Like, it's
Yeah.
like, okay, you know the movie Devil by M. Night Shyamalan?
Yeah.
Okay, so that movie was of the first of, like,
Yeah.
a Chronicle series. And I'm like, oh no.
The Last
And then,
Airbender was supposed to be a part of a series.
Yeah, and look how that turned out.
Yeah.
I laughed
Anyway,
at that.
but again, I'm steering this thing off track. Main
Yeah,
point:
so-
Divergent success. I can't say whether or not it's. I mean, I don't like its concept, but I cannot say whether or not the movie will make a good or bad influence until I see it. I know that's really petty, but I just hope maybe I'm proven wrong. Maybe there's something like completely that I'm just missing here because
And-
I'm just because we're just like teenagers talking about movies. We
Yeah.
don't have a huge understanding of how how the teen brain works or anything like that.
Yeah,
So
and to
maybe
be- I mean, yeah, go ahead.
well, something that I did find interesting was that a lot of people who went to go see it, as opposed to the other big movie release coming out, Muppets Most Wanted, which you can see a review of this Saturday on RuleThirds.com.
Nice.
It just it was weird in how people reacted so positively. How they were talking about how she was such a strong female character and how all these things.
Sure.
When none of this was none of this was talked about in the trailers, in the synopsis, none of it.
Yeah.
So
and maybe this is an example of the ad campaign exploiting and the movie was above that. And if so, I apologize to the filmmakers, but your trailers were awful. So
yeah, really,
and honestly,
Um,
looking at it's one movie, and if it sets a trend of exploiting stuff, I mean, I guess that's harmful. But in the end, overall, going back to Hunger Games, it is kind of a good thing to see more female protagonists and to see that being a success. Because even if we don't like the movies, at least they're making money, and Hollywood will realize that it's stupid we don't have more of them. It's
that's
amazing that we don't. I don't get it. Because, I mean, I consider myself I try to be, well, I don't go out of my way, but I like to think of myself as a kind of mainstream viewer. I don't like that word, but I feel like I'm kind of the average person watching. I might be a little more analytical because I have to be for reviews. And I didn't care. Okay, I'm part of this new generation of people that are throwing billions at movies. You know, we've had more movies make $1 billion in the past decade than any time previously.
Yeah, Frozen
And I
is
didn't
still
care.
playing.
Yeah,
It's still
Frozen. Oh, good. Frozen's good to bring up. We need more female protagonists, but that's a podcast on its own, actually.
Yeah,
That'd be
yeah.
interesting. But the point
But
being,
still, holy crap! I mean, movies are making bank these days.
yes, and the point being, I didn't care. I was just as invested in Katniss as any male protagonist. Actually, way more so than most male protagonists. That
If you
I've
can write a
watched
good
that
male
year.
protagonist, you can write a good female protagonist. That's what I've
Yes,
always
that's true.
stood
Because
by.
it's a person. Characters are people.
Yeah.
So, well, yes, there are differences between genders. It's not.
But look
it's
at
not
us.
like
We're
you're gonna
lecturing like people who know a lot more about this than us on stuff. Wow, this really
True,
doesn't.
but we're just
Okay,
throwing our
anyway,
2
wrapping
cents.
this up.
no, wait. I want to go to one more before we go.
But
out.
we got to
And I
wrap this
wanna-
up. But go ahead.
I know, but
I know what you can bring up. Go for it.
This is personally this is with Sean with Divergent, and now this is with me and The Giver. The trailer recently came out, and
Okay,
it looks like
here we go.
crap. man, does it look like crap. And not only because the trailer is overall poorly made, that's just a given, but they're turning a novel about a 12-year-old into a young adult novel. And we brought this up before. Harry Potter was not a young adult series in the beginning. It was not. It was a children's film.
Now, adapted to the books as they went on, not try to make the book something they're not.
I will go as far to say that Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets was a children's film. Or a kid's film in that.
Azkaban was the turning point, and then Goblet kind of cemented it as young adult.
Azkaban was the turning point. Azkaban was very dark. In fact,
Goblet of Fire opened with somebody getting murdered.
Dark.
I mean,
and
seriously.
then ended with it.
Yeah.
But went to Twilight. Good little connection there.
Yeah. And then, but you look at The Giver, and have we reached a point where we are turning novels that aren't young adult novels into young adult novel films?
It's going
to be really scared. It's going to be...
kind of, again, we're going back to it's a given. It's a given. That mindset's returned now because I think because of. I mean, I don't know. It's
given.
You realize that trailer.
Hey,
you realize that trailer. Yeah, you realize that trailer is pretty much.
Talking about The Giver. Okay.
No, you do realize though that trailer for The Giver pretty much looks like if The Host and Divergent had a Hellspawn baby, and that's what The Giver looks like.
Yeah,
and
honestly,
it's pissing me off, man.
And that trailer is really bad. It keeps building and building like it has a third act, and then it just ends. And that was
why is the V so capital, so big on the title? Sorry, I'm trying to join in on the hate, and I really can't.
Okay. Anyway,
I just wanted to end off on that scary,
The Giver
alluding note.
It's trying kind of be morphed into it. It's not that good, we don't think, because it's really not a young adult novel. It's much darker than the average young adult novel. More philosophical, definitely.
I think we should really start worrying when Maurice Sendak children's books get turned into young adult novel adaptations.
Thank God Spike Jonze and his lovely golden thumb touched where the wild things are. Because if anyone else did and tried to make it a young adult, I would have gone on a rampage.
I was just joking about stuff like, no wait, that's Eric Carle. Crap. Anyway.
Okay.
Well, are you kidding me,
guys?
I was about the caterpillar. Shut up.
Let's bring this all to a close.
Yeah.
Closing comments is pretty much, this is an interesting trend. I don't think Divergent's going to be a good influence, but we will see. Maybe in a year or so we'll revisit. We'll see how The Giver actually turns out. We'll see how the rest of the Divergent movies turn out. Maybe I'll see Divergent, but only on DVD. I'm going to rely on myself enough to not say I don't want to go up to someone in public and say one for Divergent. Okay, I have too much self-respect. But that's
okay. Here's something that we have discovered. I think maybe we've all that young adult novel adaptations, and we need to think of a better title for that subgenre, has a very, very important impact on the teenage psyche, especially in this country.
It's dangerous, and there's a responsibility behind that.
Yeah, and you don't exploit that.
And I think Hunger Games is doing a good thing with it. I think Twilight did a bad thing with it.
Yeah, teenagers are already going through enough crap in their own heads. They don't need movies to tell them how to think.
Exhibit A.
Sometimes I do like movies telling me how to
let's just say Exhibit A points to me, Exhibit B points to Sean. Let's go with that.
Sure.
So this is.
I am a man.
Okay, this has been our lovely conversation on the young adult. A novel adaptation. Tune in next week for something we haven't decided yet. And go over to worldthirds.com to see all our old content and new content, because this is going to open in a few days, so we might have something. Who knows? It'll be a surprise. You're welcome. Merry Christmas. Until next time, I'm Sean.
I'm Max.
Good delay.
And I am Larry.
See, he's much better. And we will see you next week on CinemaTalk.
Shut up. See you.
See you later, guys.
Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.